Coming up on First at 4, voters in eastern Kentucky head to the polls in a midterm election that includes a U.S. Senate race, 2 amendments, and dozens of local contests. Plus, the man accused of driving drunk and killing a London police officer was back in court today.
And we continue to watch the potential for some wildfires throughout the region. Those details next as First at 4 starts right now.
Good afternoon from WYMT Election Headquarters. I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, the polls opened at 6 o'clock this morning, and eastern Kentuckians flocked to their polling places to cast their ballots. We're hearing about some long lines in some areas. WYMT's Dakota Makris joins us now live. He talked with voters this morning about why they headed out today. Dakota?
Yeah, Steve, I went to polling places in Letcher County and Perry, and many places were getting busier later in the morning, about closer to lunchtime. One voter I talked with says it took him about 5 minutes to cast his ballot. Eastern Kentuckians were eager to cast their ballots Tuesday morning.
It was a very simple process. I walked in, showed them my ID, and they gave me my ballot, explained it to me. I went over, filled it out, and then recorded it, got my sticker, and went out.
Perry County voter Tim Deaton says voting is a way for people to make a change in their communities.
You know, we elect our officials to do the work that we expect them to do and the things that they tell us that they're going to do. And so, you know, it's our civil duty as Americans to get out and vote and let our voices be heard on who we want to be in charge of our community and our nation.
Andy says Kentuckians had important issues to vote on.
I'm going to vote every year and every time that I'm needed to.
Well, polls close at 6 o'clock tonight, and you will be allowed to vote if you are still in line at 6. So you still have some time to go out, but don't forget, you will need to take your driver's license with you. Another form of ID can be your military, college, Kentucky government, or even your passport. We'll have more from other voters in other counties coming up later tonight. Live in the studio, I'm Dakota Makris, WYMT Mountain News.
All right, Dakota, thank you very much. Control of Congress is at stake as voters in precincts across the country head to the polls. CBS's Natalie Brand is on Capitol Hill with more about a potentially record-setting election.
Long lines at polling locations across the country, a sign 2022 could set a record for midterm elections turnout.
We have a lot of problems right now in the country right now, so it's very important to vote.
Bag of Doritos, $5. Let's say $5 a gallon of diesel, $5, $4 for a gallon of gas. Should we keep going?
Inflation and the economy top of mind for voters nationwide, and in the key states that could determine the balance of power in Congress. In one of the most closely watched races, Republican Mehmet Oz and Democrat John Fetterman, battling for the open Senate seat in Pennsylvania, both cast their ballots today.
Both sides are so polarizing right now, it's hard to determine where the middle is. And it's just crazy the way things are going, the way people are at each other's throats about every little detail about everything.
Control of the U.S. Senate is still anyone's guess headed into tonight. Republicans would need to win a net of just 1 seat. Polling in the lead-up shows the U.S. House is poised to flip to GOP control. Dozens of House seats are considered competitive, with a number of Democrats vulnerable in swing districts nationwide. The final CBS News Battleground Tracker shows 6 Senate races are a toss-up.
In general, what we see is a lot of people voting. We see a high turnout.
In the closest races, elections officials are advising it could take days for results to be known. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The majority of precincts across the country are reporting few, if any, election issues. Maricopa County, Arizona had some problems with the machines that tabulate the votes, and officials moved a polling site in Louisiana because of a bomb threat. Well, voters across the country are deciding which direction our nation will take for the next 2 years. CBS's Christian Benavidez continues our coverage from Tampa, Florida.
Voters were out this morning in Tampa, joining more than 40 million others nationwide who cast ballots early. Mari Crespo told us family values are most important to her.
I want the next generation to be somebody who cares.
Nathan Sirianni believes there's too much extremism in politics.
A lot of people are leaning too far this way, a lot of people are leaning too far that way. I think problem is we need to find more common ground in the middle.
Nationwide, officials say a record turnout is possible for this midterm election, with every voter in America having at least one race to cast a vote. The top issues on voters' minds, according to CBS News polling, include crime, inflation, and the economy.
The reason to be going to vote today is to correct these self-inflicted wounds that absolutely were not necessary.
Voters in Columbus, Ohio, are also concerned about abortion rights.
Some of the issues that concern me as a citizen of Ohio are, of course, abortion, just the right to have autonomy over one's body.
With many races razor tight, election officials are asking for patience, saying it may take some time to count all the ballots. Cristian Benavides, CBS News, Tampa.
Across the country, voters are considering more than 130 measures on the ballot, from abortion rights to marijuana legalization to affordable health care and gun rights. Well, you still have time to vote. The polls close in about 2 hours. WYMT Washington News Bureau's Nicole Newman has 3 things you need to know as you prepare to cast your ballot.
3 things to know as you head to the polls today. More than 44 million people have cast their ballots in early voting. That's more than the 36 million that did so in 2018. Republicans are looking to take back control in Congress. In order to do it, they'll need to flip 5 seats in the House and 1 in the Senate. If the GOP takes back control, they're planning a federal ban on abortions, an immigration crackdown, and potential committees to investigate the Biden administration. If the Democrats can maintain their majorities, they're planning on codifying Roe v. Wade, addressing climate change issues, as well as tougher gun laws. With 3 things to know, I'm Nicole Newman in Washington.
Well, for the most part, weather-wise, it has been a quiet election day throughout the region. Skies blue everywhere, very few clouds to even speak of throughout the region. But our big issue has been the potential for wildfires, and that will grow as we head into tomorrow. Look outside from several of our stations right now. Out at London Corbin Airport, 72 the current reading there, not a cloud in the sky. Same thing as the sun continues to set here in Hazard. Mid-60s in Pikeville right now. Blue skies right through the region. One thing we want to watch, a fire weather warning. You might see this read as a red flag warning throughout parts of the region. This is actually for tomorrow. The only counties it doesn't include those in Southwest Virginia, East Tennessee, as well as Wayne, McCreary, and Pulaski in Kentucky. And we understand there's already been a state of emergency declared in Estill County due to a wildfire there. One of our colleagues from our sister station, WKYT, Allie Blake, there this afternoon was talking about all of the, according to the emergency management there, between 300 and 500 acres had burned by 10 a.m. this morning, and it was started by just a single cigarette. We'll have more on that coming up in our next half hour, but that's why we say do not burn outside. Don't even flick a cigarette out the car window. It can have disastrous consequences. Temperatures remain on the warm side in some spots, especially along and south of the Highway 80 Hal Rogers Parkway corridor. We're in the mid-70s compared to the 60s further up to the north. And those winds, right now they're out of the northeast, but they should switch to the southwest and warm us up heading into tomorrow. All quiet on satellite and radar for now, but we got a couple of different systems to talk about, and I'll talk about them here in a few minutes. Steve?
Right, Evan, thank you very much. Certainly been a nice election day. Well, we are learning more about the case against a Tennessee man accused in a Southern Kentucky police officer's death. Casey Bird is charged with murder and DUI. Police say he was drunk when his truck hit a London officer's cruiser on October 30th. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on what took place in the courtroom today.
A judge says there is probable cause to send this case against Casey Bird to the Laurel County Grand Jury, which will meet later this month. This followed a state trooper testifying on what was seen at the crash scene that killed Officer Logan Medlock. A large group of London police officers filed into a courtroom occupied also by the Laurel County Sheriff and multiple deputies. They were there for the preliminary hearing of Casey Bird. 36-year-old Tennessee man police say was drunk when his pickup truck crashed into Officer Logan Medlock's cruiser. Medlock died of his injuries. A state trooper testified that Bird's blood test showed a .293 alcohol content and his breath registered a .294.
Immediately could smell a strong odor of alcoholic beverage on his breath. His eyes were very glassy and very bloodshot.
There was also testimony that Byrd was going 51 miles per hour in a 35 zone at the T intersection. His attorney asked who had the light at the time of the collision.
If they knew today that my client had disregarded a red light, that we'd heard about it, and that's why I wanted to ask. And as we sit here today, I think that question's still unanswered. I think it'll be important for us to address. It was also brought out in court today that Casey Byrd worked as a federal prison guard for about 3 years. Before that, he was a pharmacy tech. The attorneys tried to use that to try to get the judge to lower the $1 million bond, but the judge declined. The $1 million bond stands. In Laurel County, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Byrd's attorneys say the only thing on his criminal history was an alcohol intoxication charge in Tennessee on September 30th. Coming up on First at 4, could a resurgence be on the way for the vinyl industry here in the mountains?
And changes on the way as we head later into this week. The breakdown on when we could see temperatures that feel more like winter on the way.